Hi everybody, this is Laura, City Scrapper. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel today. Today I have a layout that I made using the June My Creative Scrapbook limited edition kit. For this layout, I'm using one of the cut files that's available to My Creative Scrapbook subscribers. And I'm also using a sheet of paper from the limited edition kit that was made by Bo Bunny. The collection is Beautiful Things, and the name of the paper was Beautiful Things Fly Away. And I'll show you that sheet of paper in a moment. I'm starting out with the cut file. I cut the cut file out twice. I usually do that when I'm going to stitch on the cut file. This time, instead of just backing the cut file, I'm using some Distress Oxide inks in order to color the sun. I am using the stencil that comes in the kit and a baby wipe. So I put down the color and then I just wiped away some of the color with the baby wipe through the stencil, and that just created a cool little pattern on the sun. I realized that I should have filled in one of the rays of the sun, so I'm just doing that now with a scrap piece of paper. I use that Bo Bunny pattern paper to back the cut file. You can see that the cut file that I'm going to place on top, that has all the cutouts, and the one that's in the back, that's a solid piece. And I like to layer the paper when I'm going to stitch on the cut file because stitching puts a lot of stress on the paper, and the more layers, the more chance I have of not ripping through the side of the paper when I'm stitching. And whenever that does happen to me, when the stitching goes through the side of the paper, I'll just glue another piece of white cardstock to the back of it, let it dry, and then I will re-punch the hole and restitch. I find with scrapbooking that usually there's a way to fix most errors. So I glued those two layers together with some gel glue and I put it aside to dry. I was in Hobby Lobby a few months ago and I found that they had some of the pads for this roller on a super clearance. And so I picked up the pads and then I picked up the roller as well to go along with them. And I thought that I would use these to make a background. I couldn't figure out how to get the pads off of the little roller while the roller was covered in paint, so I figured that I would just wash off the roller in between applications and try later on to figure out how to get the pads off of the roller when the pad wasn't covered with tons of wet paint. I'm using acrylic paint here. These are Waverly acrylic paints. I got these years ago in Tuesday Morning and I use these all the time. The dark blue color that's in the center is called Ocean, and then I'm using some bubblegum paint. That's the pink paint that I'm putting on right now. I'm adding some water to make it a little easier to roll, and then I'm masking off the top of the paper with some paper towel. I just want to have the three stripes in the center with a white border all around. For each color, I put a few layers of paint down. I didn't want to totally cover up the texture that's made by the roller, but I did want the color to be kind of dark. So I put down the paint until I felt that it was dark enough, but I didn't go overboard so that I could keep the variation of color. I used a baby wipe to do a little cleaning up. That worked pretty well. And now I'm adding a little bit more pink to a couple of places. I got lucky with the pink and the blue. Those were just the colors that I wanted. But I wanted to mimic the color that was in the pattern papers, and I didn't have one of my Waverly paints that was the exact right color that I wanted. I tried mixing a few different colors of blue and green together, but none of these mixtures seemed to be exactly what I was looking for. And then finally, I realized that I had some Momenta paint that was just about the right color. And so I spread some of it out. I added some water and I added a little bit of the other colors of blue to it because it wasn't exactly what I wanted. I wanted to dull it down just a little tiny bit. And then I do the same thing with this lighter blue color. I roll it in the paint and then I add it on the bottom of the layout. And again, I use the paper towel as a mask. I'm really trying very hard to make all of the stripes about the same size and then also keep the paint about the same distance from the edge of the paper on the top and the bottom and on the two sides. And there's a little bit more white space on the bottom. I'm going to end up flipping this around, and the light blue color is going to be on the top. And then I am cleaning up a little bit with the wipe. And I wanted to mention, those aren't baby wipes. They are called Ready Wipes. They're antibacterial hand wipes. I got these at the dollar store, and they worked really well for cleaning up the paint. There were a few spots that I missed, so I wanted to add a little bit more of the dark blue paint. I'm using a dry brush, and I'm just kind of rubbing the paint in the areas that I need to cover up. I wanted the paint to look similar in the way that it's applied to the roller that I used earlier, so I thought that using a dry brush would allow me to do that. Now I'm adding some white splatters to the background. This is watered down white acrylic paint. And because I'm putting it over acrylic paint, the white splatters really showed up. A lot of times I'll add the splatters to a watercolor background or the spray background, and a lot of times the color gets absorbed, but in this case it sat right on top and those splatters are very clear. So I backed the cut file with this same pattern paper. I reserved the edge so that I could use this around the outside of the layout. I thought that having this blue around the border would help to bring the whole layout together. I wanted to attach that border to a piece of paper. It just makes it easier for me to manipulate. So I put some adhesive on that gutted out piece of paper, and then I attach it down to a piece of pattern paper that I know that I won't be using, and that's going to be my background. I just find that those gutted pieces of paper kind of flop around, so adding a kind of scrap piece of paper to help support it is something that I do all the time. Now I'm using the stamps that were in the kit this month. These are some Hampton Art stamps. I stamped out some flowers, some hot air balloons, and also some butterflies. I didn't end up using the butterflies, but I did use the flowers and also the hot air balloons, and I stamped them in 3 different colors to go along with the 3 colors that I have in the background, and you'll see that in a little while. I wanted to add a little bit of a finer detail along the edge. Everything on this layout is kind of big in scale, so I thought that it would be nice to have something that was a little bit more detailed. This is an EK Success border punch. I punched out 4 strips, and I'm attaching them to each side of the background, and I'm going to put a little something in each of the corners, because where those border strips meet in the corner, it doesn't look fantastic because they don't line up perfectly. So I'm going to do that in a little bit, but first I'm going to attach the mixed media background down to the pattern paper border that I prepared earlier. And now these are the flowers that I stamped out earlier. I fuzzy cut all of them out, and I am adding some Bow Bunny glitter paste just to add a little bit of glimmer and shine to the flowers. And the color is sugar, so it's just a transparent paste. It doesn't add any color, it just adds the glitter. I used 3 different colors of Archival ink to stamp the flowers. I used some Ranger Archival ink in aquamarine and magenta, and then I used Staz On in midnight blue. I thought it would be best to use Archival ink. That way when I added the glitter paste, I didn't have to worry about anything getting smudged. So I have stitched the cut file. I used a regular back stitch for around the sun and around the word sun. And then I used a chain stitch, I believe it's called, for the word kissed. I'm not an expert at using that stitch, but I think that any little mistakes that I made are not too noticeable. And then I also stitched some X's in the sun, and the reason I did that is because the stencil that I used has little X's in it, and so I thought that it would look kind of nice to add a little bit of texture inside the sun. I'm attaching down the cut file using ATG adhesive and then also some gel glue. I wanted to add some gel glue to the word kiss because I didn't think it would stay down with just the ATG adhesive. This is a photo of my older daughter Danielle and her boyfriend. They recently went to the Dominican Republic. They had a fantastic time there, and they took a whole bunch of tropical photos, which I'm really excited about. I am having a great time scrapbooking them. I thought this was a cute photo that her boyfriend's mother took when they were in the pool having some drinks. And I liked the way there was a lot of water in this photo, but I actually love all the photos and I am looking forward to scrapbooking each and every one of them. So I added some of the hot air balloons that I stamped at the top, and then I'm adding the pink flowers to the pink area, the dark blue to the dark blue area, and then the light blue to the light blue area. I didn't match up the blue of the flowers that I stamped exactly with the color in the background, but I just didn't have a stamp that was the exact same color, so I decided that it was close enough. I'm popping up just one of the hot air balloons on some foam. The dark blue one is going to go in the front, so I thought that that one would look nice with just a little bit of dimension. And I'm not really sure what hot air balloons have to do with this layout, but I think they just kind of go. I'm moving the hot air balloons around a little bit. Something that I like to do when I have three of any embellishment, three embellishments that are similar or the same, I like to put two closer to each other and then one a little bit further away. It's not super pronounced with those hot air balloons, but I think that it's something that helps my layouts look a little bit better when 2 out of 3 are kind of grouped or a little bit closer, and then one of them is a tiny bit farther away, but not so far away that it's not still part of the group. I hope that that makes sense. I'm attaching down those fussy cut flowers to the background. I wasn't sure if I wanted to stamp another of these light blue flowers, but I ended up just using the number that I had. I cut one of them in half and I put half to the right of the photo and then half on the top of the photo. I wanted to mention that the dimensions of the photo are 3.5 inches wide by 2 3/4 inches high, and I printed that photo out on my Canon selfie. I like these smaller photos. I'm used to using really big photos, 4 by 6 inch photos, sometimes trimmed down, sometimes not, but I really like this smaller size. I added some of the chipboard pieces that are from this month's kit. I added the heart on top of the eye, and then I also added a butterfly. And then I used some of the slightly larger white enamel dots to put in those corners to cover up where the border strips meet. I moved the pink chipboard butterfly over to the right-hand side of the word sun. And I was thinking that I wanted to add something sparkly to the centers of the flowers. They're already sparkly, but I had these jewels in mind. These are from the Brad and Eyelet outlet, and I get these jewels when I go to the scrapbooking conventions in the summer, and I thought that these were just perfect. I really haven't used these too often, but for this layout, I think that they fit right in the center of those flowers. They were just the right size, and I love the color as well. Those enamel dots are having a little bit of trouble staying put, so I added a little bit of glue to each one of them just to make sure that they don't come off at a later time. And then I wanted to add a little bit of glue to the chipboard pieces. They're resting on some stitching, so I knew that they probably wouldn't stay on there without some added adhesive. And then I still had those white enamel dots out, so I added a slightly smaller one to the heart. And then I was thinking that it would look nice to add a little bit of the same glimmer to the hot air balloons that I added to the flowers. And that is the very last touch. Here are some close-ups of the layout. Thank you so much for watching this video, everybody. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch me create a layout, and I hope that you got some ideas watching this video. If you would like to purchase a limited edition kit, you can go to the My Creative Scrapbook website. Right now, they're offering a special where you don't have to subscribe. You can just purchase a single kit, and I'll have a little bit more information about that in the description box. Have a fantastic day, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.